You know it, I know it, Keith Chegwin knows it. It's race day on Grand Prix World. We will more than likely not finish this race. That would be my prediction. Before we dive in, because obviously we'll go straight into the race, I just wanted to let you know what we're doing for pit strategy. So, Deniz will be splitting the race exactly 50-50. Nakano will be staying out an extra lap, and he'll be doing 40 laps before pitting, I think. Both cars are on the hard compound tyre, and basically we need to make sure, as far as is possible, that they both have as clean a race as possible. That means I'm not going to be aggressive at the start. While we can't afford to lose too many positions because we are on the slower tyre, we don't want to get into trouble because extra pit stops completely screw us. That said, I'm fully expecting Crasherama at some point. Okay, best of luck, everybody. See you in a moment. Oh, be kind to me. I'll tell them to be wide, not to push. Incidentally, you may be wondering about the liveries. I have found the button. I knew it did have updating liveries, and I found the button that will display them. So I'll put that on for future episodes to make sure the cars you see in these windows for brief seconds actually look like the cars should. Deniz and Nakano are holding on 9th and 10th. It is a good track for driving defensively, so a bit of a gap there between Deniz and in fact Deniz doesn't need to drive defensively because Nakano is behind him, forming a Nakano train. That means we can have Deniz get a bit of heat into his tyres, hopefully. I'm not going to get him overtaking, actually. It just isn't worth the risk. A little bit of smoke there. Someone's had an issue. Barrichello leads at the end of lap 1. Deniz has gained a place. I wonder what happened there. Oh, and he's just lost it again. So he got briefly in front of Alexander Wurtz's Jordan, only to lose the position again. Wurtz is all over the place. I just caught him in the top left screen there. Breaking traction out of turn 4. So obviously not running with enough downforce on the car. Also, there's a hell of a gap down to the Minardis. I don't know what's happened there, but it seems I think that's Mika Salo, car 18, who's holding everybody up. Anyway, where were we? I'll wait for them to cross the line again, and then I'll give you a rundown of the top 10 positions at least. Marini has fallen right down to the back, I can see. Okay, so we have Barrichello leading at the end of lap 2. Oh, there's a yellow flag out, and that looks like a Prost. That has had an incident. I think that's Marini. Yes, it is. So Marini is out, and that brings out a yellow flag, which buys us some breathing time. I will get down this rundown. Rubens Barrichello leads for the Ferrari team. David Coulthard second for McLaren. The Benettons holding on to third and fourth. That'll be a good result for them. Tuero seems to be keeping reasonably within touching distance of Hill. Jean Lacey is in fifth, and the final point scoring position sits with John Newhouse at the moment. We are now beginning to drop behind the Jordan of Alexander Wurtz, but that's okay because we're hoping for some attrition here. Frentzen in the Ferrari has got past Nakano, so we need to get Deniz pushing and making himself as wide as possible, and I think it's actually a good time as well to get Nakano to push. Interestingly, that Minardi train seems to have stopped. Car 18 looks to be out. Yes, so that was a retirement for Mika Salo. Jan Magnussen is maintaining the Minardi's bad pace, though. There's quite a gap to the Stewarts there. The Stewarts must have had a terrible start looking at it. Down in 12th and 13th, so they qualified very well, but that didn't carry over to the race, it seems. Then we have both the Williams, both the Saubers, and both the Tyrrells way behind already. Almost, I would say, 25-ish% of the lap, maybe 30% of the lap behind. So the main thing for us is that at the moment at least we're able to maintain our current strategy, and that is to avoid damage as far as possible and to try and make it to about half race distance before even thinking of bringing the cars in. I will have to keep an eye, especially now they're pushing, on tyre wear. I'm trying to see what kind of gap we're on. It looks like actually just a few moments ago Deniz there had a bit of a moment because he lost some time to Vogt, but he is keeping Frentzen behind him for the moment. Johnny Newhouse had a good lap there. He's got past Mika Häkkinen's Prost and John O'Lacey's Jordan, I think. Oh no, just the Jordan. We're getting that flickering issue again. Let me see if I can't take care of that for you. No, apparently not. Well, this is a good time, I suppose, to... there we go, maybe that deals with it. This could be a good time, I suppose, to answer some questions that we got on previous videos. Thank you again so much to everyone who watches. I really appreciate it. This is by far the most popular video series that I run. Not that that says much, because I only have about, I think I've got 20 subscribers now, which I'm pathetically grateful for. And that's the other Minardi that's just rolled gracefully to a halt. So Magnussen is out as well. Nakano is keeping the Stewarts behind him, but is way behind Deniz there. I'm going to stop Deniz pushing. I don't think we can fight right now. Oh, the game's crashed. Here you go, feel my pain. That just crashed on me completely, and we've lost that first few laps. So I'm going to have to start that race again and hope that we get lucky again. And yeah, frustrating. This is why I don't tend to do full race coverage very often, because as you can imagine, if that had happened on lap 70, I would be fucking furious about now. See you trackside. Welcome back to the restart. Same tactics again. Not going to have them pushing, just going to have them making themselves as wide as possible. I'll talk you around the first lap and then I'll get back to answering questions. Deniz back up to 9th again, Nakano up to 10th, so someone's had a bad start. No pushy just now. Barrichello still leads. It seems the Stewarts are very, very bad off the line. At least we are learning something from the restart here. The Stewarts are terrible off the line. Tyrrells and Saubers again propping up the rear, and it looks again like the Minardis and the Williams beginning to fall behind, although the Minardis are holding the pace a little bit better. Intra-team battle with the Tyrrells I just caught a picture of there as well. Okay, we're going to sit tight in 9th and 10th. Let's take a look at the top 10 as they come through, and then I will get back to answering questions from you fine people. Barrichello leads from Coulthard. Damon Hill sits 3rd, John O'Lacey 4th, Esteban Tuero is in 5th, Johnny Newhouse takes 6th, Mika Häkkinen in the Prost is 7th, Vogt's 8th, and then Deniz and Nakano 9th and 10th respectively. I'm going to wait and see a picture of Deniz here. Yeah, I think Deniz can get on the back there. I'll have them both push for a lap while we're talking. So again, before we were rudely interrupted, I was just going to say very, very grateful for everyone who likes and subscribes and comments and whatnot. As we often talk about, I'm still trying to find my niche and what content you guys like best. I am working on something special for you, actually. I know Grand Prix World seems to get the best response from people, which is fantastic because I love playing it. I don't know if it's because of the game or it's because it's F1. That's kind of hard to gauge, so any feedback you've got is very, very welcome. But I am working on the moment on some scripted content, F1 related, that once the new microphone arrives, I'm going to very eloquently recite. So it essentially amounts to content for F1 nerds, I suppose. I've done 5 episodes. I think 5 episodes is probably enough to see if people are into it. Around 15 to 20 minutes an episode. And the first run is going to be on sort of people behind the scenes. Oh, one of the Tyrrells has dropped out there. people behind the scenes in F1 in sort of recent history and the past who have contributed something massive that we still feel the effects of today. I think that could be quite interesting. I'm also going to look at some point at defunct teams and what happened to them. That's always, for anyone who loves F1, I always think that's very interesting. There's usually a story behind it about, why a team collapsed or what went on behind the scenes to prevent a team that on paper should have been good from being good. And it kind of ties into what we're doing here, right? That what we see is having money in place doesn't necessarily always guarantee success. So I figure that could be something interesting for us to talk about. You've also probably seen that I am starting a Galactic Civilizations 3 playthrough. I am doing XCOM 2 as well. I don't know, maybe that's not your bag, that's absolutely fine. I absolutely love XCOM 2. Galactic Civilizations 3 is amazing as well. It's the kind of slow-paced, nerdy stuff that I think is easier to present to people and kind of works in the same way as Grand Prix World. Anyway, enough waffle. It's question and answer time. So I got a question, I think on video 1 actually, when things sounded even worse than they do now, if you can believe that. Someone was asking me if I'm running this game in DOSBox. I'm not. This is running natively in Windows, and I installed it off the disk, so it's not a copy that one might procure if one were to sail the seven seas. However, in both cases, whether you are a landlubber or a salty sea dog, there is a patch I am using that I looked for you a few weeks back and I cannot locate it, so I'm very glad I didn't uninstall this game for any reason. But someone did put out a patch within the community. Nakano's lost a place to Montemini, it seems. Useless git. There is a patch out. Someone in the community made that allows the game to run semi-stably in Windows 7. So that's why obviously I have all the crash issues that I do. However, you don't need DOSBox to run it. It isn't actually a DOS game, this version. I don't know if there ever was a DOS compatible version. Maybe there was. It was those days. Nakano's down in 12th now. He's not having a good day at the office. Let me see, actually, if his tyres are holding up. Yeah, they're holding up absolutely fine. I could change how aggressive he's being, but I really don't think that's necessary. Look at the Williams there. That is tragic. That is tragic. We've lost only one runner on this occasion, and that was Toru Takagi in the Tyrrell. Juan Pablo Montoya is having a terrible day at the office as well. The back of the field is much more split up than it was previously. I don't know who was holding who up, but oh, we've just lost a Prost as well. That's Marini again, same corner. Doesn't like that corner very much, does he? The Minardis are running together, although they're absolutely no threat to ourselves and Ricardo Rosset here. And it seems that Frentzen is not really able at the moment to get on the back of Deniz, which is great news for us. So we come round, hit the halfway point on lap 7. So far everything seems to be good. I'm kind of reluctant to keep Deniz pushing the entire length of the race. There is a sort of an attrition value on the driver as well, and the more aggressive you make them, the more likely they are to make a mistake over a period of time. I'll try and see what the timing gap is to Frentzen. 1.9 seconds. I don't know if that's really long enough to let up, to be honest with you. Yeah, he'll have to put the boot down a few more laps. I'm just trying to do some silent maths in my head to figure out where we should expect to be with pit stops. I think after the first round of pit stops, if the gaps maintain roughly as they are now, we should expect Deniz to potentially lead the race. I doubt it, actually. I think you can probably expect to be 4th, maybe, at the first round of pit stops, and then it's just a case of keeping cars behind us until they pit again. I think most cars will be running a 2-stop strategy. Save for some of the back markers, actually. I could see Sauber, Williams, and Tyrrell running the hard compound for a 1-stopper like we are. It seems to make a certain level of sense if you don't have the raw performance in the car. Were there any other comments on the F1 stuff? I can't remember. I'm very sorry if I've missed any of you out. I did see a few things, but I can't remember if all of them were totally relevant to this playthrough. Anyway, I hope that helps to some degree. Don't give up hope. There is a Windows 7 patch out there for this game, so you can by all means run it and play it yourself on Windows 7. There's nothing to get it working on Windows 8 or Windows 10 though, I'm afraid, and God only knows if anything's going to appear. Deniz has got past Johnny Newhouse. I don't know how on earth that happened, but I'm very pleased that it did. And Frenson's got past him. That's a bit of a shake-up there. On lap 10 of 78. I didn't see because I was waffling, but I'm sure we would have seen some interesting pictures. And we are definitely ruining Ricardo Rossit's race, which makes me very happy. If Nakano's not going to be competitive, he can at least make himself useful to some degree. Montemini. Hold on the diagram there, Frenson is back behind us, and Newhouse is in front of us. What is going on? Okay, so it's all changed again. Everyone has gained except Deniz. Sounds about right. Barrichello holding on to that lead. Decent gap actually to Coulthard. It seems Coulthard also leading comfortably from Damon Hill. Esteban Tuero has been eaten alive by Jean Alesi, who is having a fantastic season. Jordan are having a bit of a breakout season this season. And obviously Benetton are seeing the recovery we kind of hoped for. Hill had a very bad season at Williams, and we sort of hoped that him stepping in to replace Irvine would have a positive effect for him and the team. And Benetton have, for the last 2 seasons, put together the best technical supplier packages and the best sponsor packages, I would venture to say, running Works Mercedes power, so it's good to see that's paying off for them. Jordan are running Works Ferrari power. I don't think their power unit is going to match ours at all, would be my guess. They are a much more economically stable team with greater economic output, but I don't expect they would have a better engine at this time, because they also have a Works tyre deal, so they've got to perform testing for that, plus testing to develop their chassis. Looking at how things are at the moment, I would venture a guess that neither Sauber nor Williams have brought out a upgrade package for their cars so far, just because the deficit is so huge. I mean, Minardi are pulling out a gap, a significant gap. I believe they're running partner Peugeot power as well, so it's not like they've got a special spec of engine or whatever. They just happen to have a well-designed car, which, to be fair, has always been a Minardi hallmark. It's a team that's always suffered historically from a fairly low budget for development, and the fact they could never negotiate for a competitive engine. But if you look back at Minardi's history, more often than not, I would venture to say they had a well-designed car. So I don't know, I've got a lot of affection for Minardi. I'd love to do a Minardi playthrough, but as I said in episode 1, it's the single best thing you can do in this game, and I don't want to steal it from people. See where we are on lap 14. It appears the sole remaining Tyrrell is going to be lapped by Barrichello either this lap or next. The field is much more diffuse than it was. There's a decent gap between Coulthard and Hill there. Tuero and Alesi are running a bit closer together, but I don't think Tuero's got the legs, to be honest, to take on a driver of Alesi's calibre. Mika Hakkinen is running very, very strongly in 6th for Prost, although he's got, I think that's Frenson all over him. So Frentzen has made fantastic progress actually, because he started something, I think it was 15th when he started, so it's a bit of a journeyman drive for him. Johnny Newhouse sits in 8th, he's gone backwards, losing out to the Prost and the Ferrari. Alexander Wurz has also gone backwards. He's sitting 9th. I don't think Deniz is particularly threatening at the moment. We are right on his tail, but I just don't see us having the caliber of driver in Deniz to get past on a track like Monaco. So again, any gains we make in position now are going to come purely from pushing at the right time, which is all the time at the moment, given how bunched up particularly Deniz is. Nakano has fallen way, way, way back. So I'm considering him a write-off, and if we get any points at all, they're going to come from Deniz, would be my feeling. Coming up, I believe, to the first pit window. It can't be far off now. I'm guessing somewhere between lap 18 and lap 24 we'll have cars coming in. That was Jean Alesi there, breaking traction out of the tunnel. He seemed to recover it. Yeah, he's still running, but I did notice him breaking traction on the rear wheels. The front runners seem to have... Oh no, it's not the front runners at all. I'm reading that diagram wrong. It gets very confusing once lappings begin to happen. Barrichello is making solid progress though. He's lapped one of the Saubers. The Saubers are running miles apart at the moment, which is very odd. Coulthard 2 is now coming through on the Sauber. First of the pit stops there, the Minardi of Mika Salo pitting on lap 17. That's earlier than I would have anticipated actually. But it was a clean stop, and he holds position. Technically speaking, he's only lost out to his teammate who is yet to stop. He managed to pit and get out ahead of the Williams. That's one of the Saubers coming in. I think that was Fisichella. Let's see. I think that was Fisichella. Hard to say. Lap 18, no one has come in as yet. We might see a Williams break cover if they're more than a single stopping, but I genuinely doubt it. It would be very poor form for them to be performing this badly when running so light on fuel. I think certainly Nakano is someone who suffers from having the heavier car on such a handling sensitive circuit. Deniz clearly doesn't have that problem, and I honestly feel Deniz has had the I think he's had the kind of he certainly had the upper hand in terms of team running, as Nakano regains 11th position thanks to Andrea Montemini making a pit stop in his Stewart. Although most of the key players are still running. I keep seeing Deniz getting a blue flag, but there's no one near him, and I really don't want him to get a penalty of any kind. But I can't see him or Nakano being lapped at the moment. That makes no sense. Montemini comes out sandwiched between the Minardis. Bit of a loose sandwich, but sandwich nevertheless. Where were we? Deniz's report card. I think Deniz has... Johnny Herbert gets a 10-second stop-go penalty for ignoring a blue flag. That's one of the Prost coming in. It appeared... Oh, no, it was Herbert serving his stop-go. These blue cars, man, confusing. So Deniz's report card, I would say Deniz has had the number of this car most of the season. He's been able to extract considerably more from it, more reliably than Nakano has. I don't think the car has a great deal more to give in the hands of a driver like Deniz. So we would only really be able to make much greater strides with perhaps a little bit more economic capacity in terms of producing spare parts, but in terms of having a stronger driver, everyone stays out another lap. No front runners have stopped as yet. Running down the top 10, Barrichello still leads on lap 21, ahead of David Coulthard's McLaren. Damon Hill in the final podium position for Benetton Mercedes. The Jordan Ferrari of Jean Alesi sits 4th. Esteban Tuero is 5th, and Mika Hakkinen in the Prost continues a very, very strong performance for him and the team in the last points paying position in 6th. Hopefully he can hold on to it through the pit stops. If we don't get a point, I'd quite like Hackers to get a point, to be honest. Prost need a little bit of love. I'm quite prepared to say that, and especially with Marini out, I think it's a pretty impressive drive. Although a driver of the calibre of Hakkinen, you could argue it was always on the cards. Who is that who stopped? Was that Coulthard? No, it was not. It was Johnny Newhouse, who pits, and where does he rejoin? He rejoins behind the Stewart, so that's odd. Car 18, Mika Salo, are you running with damage of some kind, my friend? Because what was two Minardis running together is now separated by both Stewarts, a McLaren, and the Sauber of Johnny Herbert. So car 18 is certainly off the pace, comparatively speaking. There's also a gap between the Williams now. I don't know if one of those stopped. Coming round to begin lap 23, we are still chasing down Alexander Wurz, who is yet to stop. He could be one stopping. Mika Hakkinen, I could see one stopping. He's lost out to Heinz-Harald Frentzen, but I can only assume that Frentzen is on a 2 or maybe even a 3-stop strategy, because to gain that many positions, I would assume he's running light. Either that or his car works much better fully loaded than it does in qualifying trim, which can happen. We've had a car like that, if you recall. I think that was last season. We had a situation where our car was much, much better on heavy fuel than it was in qualifying trim. Still holding on to 9th and 10th, which is an improvement on where we began the race. Who's that coming into pit? That was Esteban Tuero. Frentzen has also stopped, it seems, allowing Hakkinen to slip back into 6th position. Wurz is gaining on him, though, quite convincingly, pulling out a gap in front of Deniz, which is unfortunate. Has Barrichello yet stopped? I'm not entirely sure he has. It's kind of hard to keep track of this, actually, because I get the feeling that the race coverage runs a little bit too quickly. Lap 25, Barrichello still leads from Coulthard. Hill has stopped, which means Jean Alesi promotes himself to 3rd. It registers Hill as 4th, but actually Mika Hakkinen is running 4th at the moment. 6th is Alexander Wurz. 7th and 8th are both our cars. Hill has just come out behind Nakano, which is bad news bears for everyone involved. That's just an accident waiting to happen, to be honest. You tend to see that, particularly where you have one car that is noticeably better than another. In this case, the Benetton is noticeably better than the Arrows, and it's in the hands of a much superior driver. Hopefully he can get a clean overtake, but not that I'm wishing to just, surrender the place, of course. Both the leaders come in to pit there, which means if Hakkinen doesn't stop, he inherits the lead, potentially. Oh wow, David Coulthard manages to retrieve 2nd apparently ahead of Jean Alesi. I don't buy it, because Alesi's down behind. It all gets crazy when the pit stops happen. Let me try and read this diagram now. It looks like Barrichello is out and yet to stop. Coulthard 2nd. Hakkinen 3rd. Wurz 4th. Deniz 5th. Nakano 6th. We're still, there we go. Barrichello comes in to stop. He's gonna maintain the lead. I think there's no way we're gonna make it round before he gets out. I don't think. So an excellent run there for Barrichello in the Ferrari. The gap is still very, very convincing to Coulthard, so I think that race is won, to be perfectly honest with you. As Deniz steps up into fourth and Nakano inherits fifth thanks to another round of pit stops. That was Hakkinen stopping on this occasion. Yet to stop is Vogt, who, if you remember, we did surmise was on a one-stop strategy, given that Deniz has been able to match him almost beat for beat the entire round. Nakano is maintaining some distance at least to Hill, who seems to be losing a bit of time defending from Jean Alesi. Magnussen sits in ninth for the Minardi team, which is impressive, but I'm unsure if he's stopped. We know Salo has, so I'm guessing Magnussen is also on a one-stopper actually. This is good news for us, because if Nakano can hold up the Benetton and if Magnussen can hold up Frentzen, we could be in a good place actually for picking up some points. Who was that coming? Oh, that was Magnussen coming in and ruining our day. So that then releases Frentzen and the Stewarts. Esteban Tuero, Hakkinen and Johnny Newhouse as well actually are released by that. Lap 28 of 78, we are sitting 4th and 5th. It's a very, very convincing performance from Deniz, I feel. Deniz gets a hard time, externally at least. I think we've been reasonably fair to him during our playthrough. I've always had a bit of affection for Pedro Deniz. I think he's one of the few pay drivers in history, the overt kind of pay driver, the one that brings crazy money. He's one of the few overt pay drivers that has been a convincingly consistent performer. If you look at his career in the 90s and early 2000s, he warranted a place. I think he was a safe pair of hands. He wasn't a Maldonado. He wasn't a Marcus Ericsson, who, again, Marcus Ericsson I think actually gets a hard time, but I'm digressing. Deniz has been our one consistent good performer across the last 3 seasons. Different departments have fluctuated. Nakano's been very mercurial, actually. His performance has been very, very variable. But Deniz always seems to, maybe not first time out, but he certainly seems to qualify quite well. He's put in some surprising qualifying performances, I would venture to say. I think it was it the last race that we covered live? Was it Australia? No, it was last season. I do recall he managed to knock 1.82 seconds off one of his qualifying laps and put himself way up in the top 10. So we know he's capable of bringing it out, and the fact he's been with the team so long means he's very, very well synergized. To the extent that I would almost venture to say that we're developing a car for Deniz and Nakano's just having to live with it. I have won World Championships with Nakano, so in most games I've played he's been far more convincing. Certainly he'd be matching Deniz in my experience. Deniz I've never won a championship with, but I'll tell you what, this is... For whatever reason, in this playthrough, Deniz, I think, could be champion material if you give him the right car. And then, once you consider that, I mean, of course, we could... It comes down to the traditional argument, we could win a championship sooner with a more capable driver, sure. But if we can get the job done eventually with Deniz, and he's going to pay us $9 million a season to make that happen, then, who are we to say no? Lap 32, our pit window opens in 7 laps for Deniz, who currently sits 4th. Still within... He could tickle Alexander Wurtz's bottom with a feather duster without breaking too much of a sweat. I think that's the analogy we'll use. He has managed to lap one of the Williams, and the pace for Wurtz and Deniz to Coulthard is respectful, I think. The two drivers are not giving each other too much hassle, although it's probably more on us than it is on Jordan. And the gap to Coulthard doesn't seem to be excessively expanding, which means we're keeping a fairly consistent pace, if nothing else. Nakano too actually is keeping a consistent pace. It just isn't anywhere near as impressive as Deniz's pace is. The main thing is he's keeping Hill behind him, and by the time we stop, we should come out fairly well positioned. Certainly, I think we could undercut Hakkinen with Deniz at this rate. I would venture to say that we might have to sit content outside the points for 6 or 7 laps, and then the second round of pit stops will begin, and we will be very, very, very well placed indeed. And of course, that is in no small part thanks to the fact that neither of them has binned it or smashed into the back of someone else's arse. Looking down the field, I'm trying to call the top 6 for you. It's very hard to say, of course, because accidents will happen, and I'm surprised to have both cars running this deep into the race, actually, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm also surprised it hasn't rained. I think it's fair to say that anything beyond second position is up for grabs. I think Rubens and David have the top 2 steps of the podium on lock at the moment. I don't see anybody getting past Barrichello in the form he's in today, and that Ferrari is working exceptionally well. Coulthard is maybe a bit of a softer target, but I don't see it either. I think if strategy favours us, particularly if we pit first, I could see us undercutting Wurz with Deniz. Whether he can keep Wurz behind him is another question, but I would venture to say that he could. So I hate to I need to change. I'm going to bring him in early. I'm bringing Deniz in early. He'll come in lap 36, and we'll put extra fuel in him. It's because he's been pushing. Same for Nakano, actually. We'll bring Nakano in lap 38, and we'll fuel him for 42 laps as well, just so we've got a bit of playroom. And I think actually pitting early is going to. I'm glad I saw that warning, actually, because they would have run out of fuel. I think stopping now is good. We're actually, I would say, it looked for a moment there like we were closing the gap to Coulthard, actually. But if we can bring Deniz in now, we might actually be able to undercut Wurz. Why didn't you pit, you gibbon? Why didn't you pit? Okay, now he's on an in-lap. Apparently. He better had be. I'm not being an idiot, right? I did tell him to pit lap 36. And that complete tool just didn't bother. There we go, now he's in. I hope I fueled the car correctly. It's a bit hard to do maths like that on the fly. Yeah, we need to bring Nakano in. He's going to run out of fuel. 42. Please come in, you total clown. Okay, Deniz has come out in 8th, which I think is fairly respectable. Very, very disappointed that the pit strategy got screwed up the way it did, but hopefully we haven't overfueled him too much, but I just want to have a bit of a cushion in order to push, to be honest. See where Nakano comes out of this. Behind Tuero in 11th, so that is bad news. That is bad news. I'm going to wait for everyone to cross the line again so we get a better picture of what's going on here, because it becomes very difficult to keep track of what's what. So Barrichello and Coulthard obviously lead lap 40. Hill is 3rd, Alesi 4th, Frentzen is in 5th, 6th goes Wirtz, Pedro Diniz 7th, Mika Hakkinen 8th, Johnny Newhouse 9th, 10th Esteban Tuero, and Shinji Nakano sits 11th, but obviously there's pit stops still to come. I'm going to cut the video here, mainly because I'm recording this in Fraps. It's the only thing that I'll record it, and the size of the files is massive, and this computer's quite old, and I'm really worried that we're going to end up missing the end of the race because of all the disk space being gone. And also, if that happens, I'll get a pop-up and it'll crash the game. So yeah, fuck that. See you in a minute. If you join me for a brief moment on the start of lap 44, we've got both drivers pushing for an overtake, being a little bit more aggressive. As it stands at the moment, I predict Deniz is going to come home 4th, because they maybe 3rd. I doubt it. No, I think Deniz is going to come home 4th on the basis that Wirtz managed to stay ahead of us. So we need to get ahead of Wirtz if we're going to have any chance of getting on the podium today. The pit stops are starting again. There are some positives that I'm taking away from this, though. One is that on this stint, we have continually and very comprehensively outperformed, with Deniz at least, Johnny Newhouse in his McLaren, who's just stopped, but for a period was the next car down the road, and we were maintaining very close steps with Wirtz while pulling out a very impressive gap to that McLaren. Wirtz nearly loses it there, actually. That could have been a position for us. We've also been outperforming the Benetton of Esteban Tuero and the Prost of Mika Hakkinen, so it's not all doom and gloom. I think the car is competitive in the midfield, which is exactly what we would hope for, at least at the bare minimum. We haven't fallen back into the clutches of the Minardis, and certainly not the clutches of the Stewarts the way we feared we had. I'm going to cut the video again now, and we'll catch up at the final part of the race once things have settled down again. See you soon. You rejoin me on lap 55, where Pedro Diniz has just moved into the points thanks to a pit stop from Hill. Even better than that, Heinz-Harald Frentzen has somehow managed to put himself into 2nd, so it's now a Ferrari 1-2, which is a hell of a performance from Frentzen. He's definitely a driver to watch, it seems, because he has come from, I think, a start of 15th on merit through to 2nd. I don't know how he managed to leapfrog absolutely everybody in the pit stops, but he did. There are still cars to stop in front of us, namely Alesi, I think, is yet to stop, and maybe even Coulthard is yet to stop, so there's still places possibly to be had. Join us soon. Lap 58, and we have lost Mika Hakkinen, unfortunately, to a suspension failure. Poor bloke, after such a great performance as well. That's both Prost's out. Deniz currently sits 5th, ahead of Alesi, who is going to be catching him, I'm fairly convinced. He's fallen way off the back of Wirtz, so Wirtz has found some pace in the late race. I'm going to stop him pushing because we're going to get a bit slim for fuel again. We've got 20 laps of fuel to last 18 laps, so pushing would be bad at this stage, and we'll hold off and then have a bit of fuel to play with to keep Lacey behind us later on. I will see you soon. Excellent news for us in lap 62 as Jean Lacey goes out of the race, which means the pressure is off Deniz. Fantastic news all round, really. Frentzen has pitted and managed to stay in front of us. Wirtz has got the legs on us in the last stage of the race, unfortunately. I'm assuming things are going to pretty much hold the same, so I will probably now, to keep the video manageable size, see you at the end. See you soon. Surprise. Get a load of that. Now, of course, it was not all our doing. Coulthard and Wirtz dropped out of the race due to suspension and hydraulic issues, but it did mean that Pedro Diniz inherited the podium. It happened very, very, very late on in the race after I'd already made the decision to come back to you at the race classification screen. So I'm sorry we didn't capture anything of that as it happened. I'll be completely honest with you, I was making a drink, but I was very happy to see it happening. So that's Barrichello takes the win for Ferrari ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. A great drive from both those guys, and an amazing drive from Deniz. Consistent, smooth, not always fast, but got the job done, and he was exactly where he needed to be to inherit that podium. Benetton gets both cars in the points, as does Johnny Newhouse's McLaren. Unfortunately, no points for Shinji Nakano, but again, he was close. He was within 0.5 of a second of Esteban Tuero and closing at the time, so good news there. We were also the highest placed Bridgestone finishers. In fact, we were the only Bridgestone finishers, but whatever. Thank you so very much for joining me. I hope you're having a great start to the week, and I will see you again tomorrow. Take it easy.